Hi, folks. I'd sort of lost the thread of sharing some of the findings from the 9 Grid report and the research that sits behind the 9 Grid over the last month or so. Been away from work a little bit, and yeah, I wanted to sort of pick up from there. And I wanted to pick up on what I think is perhaps the most important theme, unsurprisingly, is economics, the shifting economics in the industry. Perhaps there's no surprises, on the corporate side, this what I think is a dreaded phrase, doing more with less, seems to be a sort of prevailing sentiment, if not a prevailing direction. Um, Obvious points, I suppose, that leaner times are more business as usual now. Perhaps last year or the year before, it felt like a sort of shift to leaner times. It feels like that's more sort of the current practice, I guess. And unsurprisingly, we've seen ongoing sort of headcounts freezing in corporate learning development teams, and actually perhaps a little bit more over the last sort of 6 to 9 months, perhaps. Team sizes falling as restructuring takes place, partly for business transformation, but also just to make those savings, sort of defend profitability, etc. So those perhaps less surprising or less new. What does feel new, though, to me at least, is actually I think what we're seeing is savings from digital rather than the switch from the classroom. So in previous times of sort of economic hardship, I guess, or leaner economic market, we'd seen digital learning perhaps better defended whilst there was a switch from classroom activity to digital as a sort of lower cost alternative, quite simply put. I think we're seeing less of that now. And I think we're actually seeing the sort of these kind of savings and sort of freezing of budgets actually being, affecting digital itself and less of that switching behavior. Be interested to know, if you recognize that yourselves as well. But it feels like that's a difference to this kind of economic climate than we might have seen previously. I think behind all of this, we're starting to see these expectations of AI efficiency are sort of starting to take their effect on funding plans for the future as well. So I think both on the service provider side and on the corporate side, everybody's started to very quickly and unsurprisingly realize that generative AI tools and other tools are creating extremely high sort of rapid efficiency gains in what is a market that's still very much focused on content creation, content design, and production. So whilst there is that focus on content, the expectations and the reality look like efficiency is to be had, which does support that rather uncomfortable doing more with less hypothesis or direction. I think one of the things that's interesting as well is maybe this is a sort of test to see if some of these points are going to hold. Is that I think towards the end of last year and early part of this year, we saw that smaller budget projects, lower budget projects, maybe sort of in the region of sort of 20k, sort of £20,000, or sort of 20 to 30k euros boundary would quite often go out to the market for sort of rapid turnaround from vendors. We're seeing less of that now, and I'd be interested to see if should economic climate warm, will those return? So I think there's some interesting factors sort of weighing on the corporate side and also on how AI is being used to sort of realize those efficiencies. Not to say innovation isn't available, but whilst practice focuses on content, then efficiency gains are to be had. I think that's an important dynamic in the market. I think on the service provider side, there's a focus on greater value. So I think unsurprisingly, we're seeing profitability be a big driver, particularly for those more technology-led businesses where investors are expecting and demanding, quite rightly, perhaps that profitability should be defended rather than necessarily or not at the expense of growth. I think AI automation in content production, is widespread now, across all service providers with content in their armory. There are implications for pricing, and not necessarily that prices are falling, but that you might get more for your money, or more sort of richer variety, greater choice, etc. As AI is applied to those sort of studio and production activities in digital learning service providers. I think we're also seeing that specialist providers, perhaps sort of simulations, gaming, scenario-based, platform-led businesses are able to create sort of richer experiences to populate those scenarios and simulations, for practice of skills, for business change, behavior development, etc. I think that's kind of interesting as well, as perhaps making those options perhaps more attractive for buyers than they might have been as a result of some of these sort of efficiency gains from the use of AI in the design and production parts of their workflows as well. I think it's interesting as well. We're seeing the authoring content authoring, learning authoring is everywhere, and the boundaries between authoring, media providers, etc., is falling. Learning technology providers, learning systems providers are adding authoring to their roadmaps, etc. So it feels like authoring is sort of everywhere utility, and the value is in design, which is probably always should have been true. But I think we're starting to see a greater focus on design tooling, and then a greater focus, hopefully, on the skills and the insights that support that as well. So that's not necessarily so much about efficiency. It's about, I suppose, what next after the efficiency. It's not only about content, but really, I think what we're seeing at the moment is the economics in the background are focusing on efficiency, and the AI gains from efficiency as well. I don't think that will stay true, but I think it's true for now. That's the sort of current status. A quick update. Be interested to know what you think. Do you recognise that? Do you disagree? Where do you think we might go next after efficiency, if you do agree? Anyway, so back to the update. Hopefully more to come over the next few weeks as well. Thanks very much.